93 Boxing. I'm back with a quick video. Errol Spence calls out Danny Garcia right after the Kell Brook fight, knowing that Errol Spence is the world champion and Danny Garcia is not. That's impressive for Errol Spence, and I rate that. I really rate that. I respect that. That's really a mark of a fighter who's willing to fight everyone and anyone. But the thing is, Danny Garcia suddenly responds to Jeff Horn when Jeff Horn becomes the world champion. And I don't think Jeff Horn called out Danny Garcia, but Errol Spence did. Errol Spence is a bigger fight. There's more reward to that. Most people think Manny Pacquiao got robbed against Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn ain't even all that. Errol Spence has actually KO'd, stopped Kell Brook, who actually is very big at welterweight. He just sort of out-muscled him and Errol Spence was strong in there. He was relentless. And he lived up to the hype. There's a lot of hype on Errol Spence, and if you beat Errol Spence, you're the next best thing. But Danny Garcia is he's looking to fight someone like Jeff Horn rather than Errol Spence. And Danny Garcia responded to Sean Porter, but he never responded to Errol Spence, which obviously begs the question when it comes to fans questioning why Danny Garcia is doing this. He clearly is a cherry picker, right? Yes and no. Danny Garcia is a sort of fighter who's going to fight a decent fighter, then a good fighter, decent fighter, then a top fighter, and then like a cherry pick. And then he cycles that throughout most of his career for a while. Recently that's what he's been doing. And eventually I think he'll fight Errol Spence. Given that one doesn't fall off badly. Given that Errol Spence doesn't fall off badly, right? Eventually he will fight Sean Porter, in my opinion. If these fights will happen eventually. But Danny Garcia just gonna fuck around a little bit. He's not the sort of guy who... He kind of treats himself as a little bit of a quote-unquote diva in a way. I'm not saying that in a bad term, although normally we use that as a bad term, right? But he tries to class himself as a prize fighter, with pride and shit, with image, and he's like a brand almost. And he fucks around. Then he fights a good fighter. As I said, eventually these fights will happen. The fact that he carries himself around like this, again, it creates controversy, and it's also easy paydays. I feel like that's why Danny Garcia does it. You think Danny Garcia will get Danny Garcia from Rod Salka? I feel like benefited from it. You beat someone like Rod Salka, and you're known for something, right? You're grabbing attention. This is controversy. Picking Rod Salka when you're a light welterweight champion, big puncher at light welterweight. And Rod Salka's like a division below you, never been a world champion, I think. And you're the best guy at 140, and then you just fight this guy? That's crazy, right? But it creates controversy. People are like, what the fuck are you doing? But then they tune in to see him lose, or what? They remember Danny Garcia, right, from that stuff. Danny Garcia does those type of things. He creates controversy. He tries to act cool and shit, but and Angel Garcia does all that controversial shit, but he does some controversial shit on his own like that as well when it comes to picking the fights. Or maybe it's Angel Garcia that's maneuvering him. The thing is, Keith Thurman, for example, at one point was looking to fight anyone. He was really looking to fight anyone and everyone, right? You have Danny Garcia. I mean, he fought what? Kendall Holt, Nate Campbell. He was cycling his way through, right? He fought Ashley Theophane, Amir Khan, Eric Morales twice, and he Zab Judah, Lucas Matisse. Then he took a lower level opposition, Mauricio Herrera, who's still a good fighter. Up to Matisse, I think his opposition was pretty decent, and even up to Herrera. But then after that, you got Rod Salka, right? Then you have... Because, let's say before Herrera, the top fighters he fought, right? All the top fighters, all the good fighters he fought. Amir Khan, Eric Morales, he fought him twice. You could, I guess, include that as twice or once. But, you got Amir Khan, Eric Morales, Lucas Matisse, Zab Judah. And Zab Judah came to fight. We do need to include that. When Zab Judah comes to fight, he's a dangerous fighter. Then you have Kendall Holt, who was actually considered a killer back in the day. I remember that. Nate Campbell's pretty decent. And, Now after that, right? Obviously, apart from Keith Thurman, after that he fought like Herrera. Actually, let's include Herrera with the because we're gonna just say what happened before and after Herrera. So before Herrera, that's what happened. After Herrera, you had Rod Salka, Lamont Peterson, past prime Paulie Malignaggi. Then you had Robert Guerrero, and then you had Samuel Vargas. Now, Paulie Malignaggi was past his prime like really badly, and then you had like two really low level oppositions from like Sammy Vargas or whatever he fought, Vasquez, I can't remember his name, and Rod Salka. They're not really the best level oppositions, for real. But that's what he's been doing, and I'll explain all this why, right? Look at Keith Thurman again. He was looking to fight anyone and everyone, but then all of a sudden he changed. He don't seem to want to fight Errol Spence anytime soon. And it's not because, I mean, it could be because of that, but it's not really only because he might be a bit worried that he might lose to Errol Spence. I don't think that's the case. Fighters don't think like that. And then you have even Amir Khan, right? Who was looking to fight anyone and everyone at 140 back in the day, 2009, 2010, 2011. And now, he's talking about he should pick the right fight. He doesn't want to fight Kell Brook. You look at all this time, right? He's really, really like picking and shit. Yeah, he's got a good resume. His last 5 is better than a lot of other people's last 5. But still, the fact is, he's still looking. He's not willing to fight any and everyone. I'm fairly sure if they put in front of him, he would be willing to fight them. But he's not. He's trying to make choices, and he's not looking to fight anyone and everyone. So I give you at least 2 examples of fighters where they used to be wanting to fight anyone and everyone, and now they don't. I wonder why, right? This is why. This is one of the reasons why. They got more money, so they don't have to work as hard. They can get they build up a name. So they can pretty much fight whoever they want and make some decent paydays. Danny Garcia can fight, I mean, who he can fight like fucking, I think he sold out the Barclays. He always sells out the Barclays from people that I know that live in New York and that go to the event with Danny Garcia versus anyone. Like, he tends to sell out. So I get the impression that Danny Garcia he's a name, I see him as a name, but that's confirmation to me that he's definitely a big name in boxing. You have Keith Thurman, again, he's a pretty decent name in boxing, 2 world titles. He's a name, he's a big name. And you have Amir Khan now. Amir Khan's kind of irrelevant right now, but he was a big name still. When he fought Chris Algieri, I think he made like 1.3 million fighting Chris Algieri. Which is, again, like that's some money. That's some decent money right there. So these guys can make $1 million or 2 by fighting like decent level oppositions. So, that's where the motivation kind of goes away in a way. Like, oh shit, I can make money like this. But also the main motivation goes away through this. When you're fighting top level fighters, or at least even B-level fighters on a more consistent basis, because not everyone does that. Kell Brook never did that on a consistent basis. Yeah, he has anomalies of A-level fighters, and I'm giving Kell Brook as an example because that's the first example that pops in my mind. Yeah, he fought like Sean Porter, he fought Triple G, but overall his resume is filled with below C-level opposition, below D-level oppositions. And you got Keith Thurman who's fighting some decent oppositions on a consistent basis, right? Sometimes these guys will give you trouble. After the Luis Collazo fight, Keith Thurman was never the same when it comes to picking the right fighter. And I'll explain why. It's because he was criticized. People have been riding with him, and suddenly he's looking bad. And anyone can look bad. Anyone can have an off day. It happens, right? People are throwing punch, and one punch can change the fight. It happens. And Keith Thurman was criticized. Now, I criticize him for being a hypocrite for other reasons, but people criticized him. They were hopping off his dick. And they were kind of being haters in a way. Like, genuine haters, and they weren't really supporting him like that. no matter what Keith Thurman or any fighter says that it doesn't affect them, it does affect them. Knowing that these fans have been dick riding you and then all of a sudden they hopped off your dick, it's different, man. It feels completely different. You have, again, Danny Garcia, who after Lucas Matisse, right? Danny Garcia fought loads of good fighters, up to the point where he fought Lucas Matisse, right? Loads of good fighters. He was actually having a streak of good fighters. Like, I mean, he fought Amir Khan, Eric Morales. He fought Eric Morales, Amir Khan, Eric Morales, Zab Judah, Lucas Matisse. That's what he did. And Eric Morales was past his prime, but Eric Morales could not be knocked out by Marcus Maidana, who gave, Marcus Maidana had a relatively competitive fight. I mean, Eric Morales was in the fight with Marcus Maidana. So, Eric Morales was, in my opinion, was still a decent opposition. But, after the Matisse fight, everyone was on his dick. And obviously, you go through all the training camp, you go through all the hard work. The amount of hard work that you put out, you remember. Other people might forget, but you remember. So when people shit on you on the Herrera fight for looking bad, then that motivation to give back to the people what they want is kind of goes away. Just think about it, right? Just put yourself in the position. Same thing with Amir Khan. He's been looking to fight everyone. People were riding his dick. All of a sudden, he slipped off by Danny Garcia, and people hopped off his dick, and it was the same thing. Ever since that he became like that. Ever since that he started picking and choosing all of these guys, not just all of them. We've ruined these fighters. We as fans ruined these fighters, and I feel like don't just you can critique a fighter, but don't just hate on him for them looking bad. I mean, it's one thing if you gonna call them out for being a hypocrite, because one fighter be criticizing someone else, but then at the same time they might not be looking too good. When Keith Thurman says Amir Khan for Collazo, over the hill Collazo. Meanwhile, then he fights Collazo about a year or two later, and then he gets in some deep trouble. That's the thing. Then I said, oh, you said Luis Collazo was over the hill. What's up with you now? And that's all I was trying to say. Other than that, I don't really have a problem. I feel like we fans need to treat fighters a little bit better. We don't have the problem with us fans is we are too harsh when people lose. We are way too harsh. Way too harsh. Any of these top fighters take a loss and we'll be shitting on them. Let me know what you think. 93 Boxing, and I'm out.